for joining me today in the Lost Diary of Shasta Dorcas, July 20th, 1975. The Big Vacation. July 20th, 1975. The Big Vacation. Dear Diary, for the last week and 4 days, my family has been on a vacation, except for Bubba. He stayed behind with Pinky. My family went to see the Grand Canyon. Did you know it was just a big hole in the ground? I saw people riding donkeys and horses to the bottom. My dad said it was too hot and too crowded. Behind me, you could hear a man say to his wife that you could see the hole at the top just as good as you could at the bottom. A hole was a hole no matter how you looked at it. I don't think he wanted to go to the bottom with his wife that wanted the great adventure of riding a mule in the heat. I looked over the ledge, holding on to the rail. My dad let me use his binoculars to look down at the bottom of the big hole in the dry land. I was so bored, I began to sing silly songs like, "The mules go marching 2 by 2, and the little ones stop to tie a shoe, and they all go marching down to the bottom to see a big hole, throwing dust in the air, hurrah, hurrah." I looked at my mom and asked, "Do you think God smashed a town with one big rock because he was mad at them?" Mom rolled her eyes and sarcastically asked, "Do you find the craziest question to ask me at the bottom of a Cracker Jack box?" "No. However, if the town was all bad, it would be a great victory for God and a miracle for the people that were scared of them." A crowd of old people got off of a bus and stood at the lookout beside us and started taking pictures of the dirt and rocks. The mules were gone. Some of the old people thought it was a waste of land. I agreed with them and told them that they should fill it with water so they can swim in it, or even better, we could fill it to the top with salt water and put whales and dolphins and some mermaids in the Grand Canyon and make it the Grand Zoo. Some of the old people laughed with glee in their eyes and thought that it would be a spectacular idea. The tall man with the blue shirt and the checkerboard shorts told me that I have a creative mind. A lady next to him with a pretty pink dress told my mom, "You must be proud of her, a child with a great mind full of innocence." She also told my parents that I have the best smile in the world. My mother tucked her head with embarrassment as my dad was laughing with amazement of what was being said. My mom pulled me away to stand someplace else as she told the old people that I watched too much TV. We stood there for a long time as if my mom didn't see the big hole in the ground in a full detail or something. I was getting really bored and wondering, why am I here, when a boy about my age with a white shirt and blue pants came over and whispered in my ear that I needed to go talk to the Indian guy because he was looking for me. So I snuck away from my family and went to the guide booth and said, "Hi, my name is Shasta Dorcas. Is anyone looking for me?" An Indian from the back table got up and walked toward me. He has 2 braids, and he's wearing a cowboy hat. I asked him, "Where are your feathers?" He smiled and said he only wears them for special occasions. He told me that he had seen me in his dreams, and God told him that I would be here today. Before I could say anything, my family showed up behind me and asked about renting those mules. The guy told my family, "You're in luck today because we have 3 free openings for a half-day trip through the canyon, and you should be back later tonight. And someone also paid for your youngest daughter to stay with the guides and our tribe until you return, and not to worry because we have lots of activities to keep her mind occupied." My dad told my mom that it was probably that nice old couple that was standing next to us. She smiled and said, It's a great idea no matter who paid for it, and left toward the mules with Cameo and didn't even say goodbye. My dad asked if it was okay if I wanted to stay behind, and he gave me a big hug and kissed my cheek. He told me that he would see me later and left toward the mules. The Indian guide with the braids and the cowboy hat held out his hand and asked me to meet his tribe. We walked behind a building, and there was a black and red helicopter with a woman and her child getting in. My eyes got really big. He said, "Don't be frightened. My name is Firefox, and I have been waiting for you for 21 days. Shasta, do you think it will rain soon? Our crops are dying." I looked at him and wiped my forehead and said, "Whew, well, I'm 6 years old, and I don't know much, but I think it should rain and cool everyone off." He hugged me and hoped I was right and said, "Shasta, God wants me to show you some things," and directed me to the helicopter with 5 other people. We took off in a helicopter, and it was exciting. I felt like I was a bird in the sky. When I looked down, all I could see was my family on the mules just beginning on the trail. We flew over the canyon as Firefox showed me that the Grand Canyon is more than just a hole in the ground. He showed me the painted mountains, the tall trees, different types of cactus, and many waterfalls. This was a beautiful sight. We landed in a clearing in the south rim. We got out of the helicopter, and he took me to meet his family and tribe. He put me on a painted horse called Storm, and he rode a horse named Rain. I had to ask about the connection of the horses' names. Firefox said that it was because the power they hold that roll across the sky. Both of them were born in a bad rainstorm, and that is how they got their names. Some of the tribe and I went trotting down a trail. I saw 2 bighorn sheep and a pretty pink flower unlike I've ever seen in Texas, because these flowers grew on top of a cactus. You know, at the time nobody saw those sheep but me, but that was okay, because riding with Firefox's people made me feel safe and a part of their family. They showed me many beautiful things. Firefox told me that because of the drought, that he has to drive far to get food for his family. Everyone has prayed to God for their crops and to be able to hunt on their land again. The animals have disappeared from the land trying to find water. He said he has dreamed of a miracle for many weeks, and that I was always in his dream. Firefox and his wife rode near me with tears in their eyes as Firefox said that God chose me to help their tribe. I just stopped my horse and asked everyone to stop and pray together, and maybe all their prayers will be answered together. Before we prayed, I asked if everyone believed in God. A crow landed by some horses and spooked some men, and I thought it might be bad luck. I rode Storm over to the men and asked, "Do you truly believe in God?" They bowed their heads as if they were embarrassed. A man named Turtle said that he had given up on God. His family is starving, and it's hard to find work to support everyone. They get paid to dance for tourists sometimes, but they're poor. I looked in Turtle's eyes and I held his hand out and told everyone to pray for food, family, and God's love. In a calm, soft voice, I told everyone to believe in God. He is here. Let God hear your voice as one. Then something appeared in front of me and the tribe. The most beautiful rainbow over the Havasu Falls. The waterfall was so gorgeous that I could feel it as if it was a piece of heaven on earth. The water was twinkling with the sun. We rode closer to the waterfall, and Firefox helped me down from the storm. I put my hands in the water, and then I felt the urge to run right into the water. I saw that there was a dirt trail under the water that led straight to the waterfall. The water only came up to my shins. I ducked behind the curtain of the waterfall. A cool wind began to blow, and all I could think about was how much trouble I'm going to be in when my mom sees me like this. The water was warm, and the Indians began to chant and fall down like dominoes. I was standing behind the waterfall looking through at Firefox and his family. I was waiting for something, and then it happened. The deep, strong, loving voice. Shasta, stay strong in your childhood. I would never give you more than you could bear. A child would lead the people to me. This is your responsibility, and to tell the people that I hear their prayers and to always believe in me. I didn't see anyone standing there. The voice is so familiar and better than my dreams, as if I belonged there. I was wet, my whole body was warm all over, and I couldn't move. I wondered what child was going to lead the people. Where would they go? I do feel as if I was talking with God. The voice was gone, and I came out of the waterfall and told everyone what God had said. Slowly, herds of sheep, bison, and deer with big ears began to appear. The people were weeping in joy with their hands in the air. A woman stared at the water, saying something that I did not understand. I looked down at the water, full of fish, and barely room for us. They just kept pouring down the waterfall. Firefox carried me out of the water and said, God has given you many blessings today, Shasta Dorcas, for doing what God told you to do. Thank you, Shasta. Thank you for restoring everyone's faith in God. The woman gathered fish in their blankets and carried them. Some others found wood to bring back for fire. They left some horses behind at the waterfall, but Firefox said don't worry about those, because they know their way back home. They're part of our family. I don't even know what I did today. How could I be chosen for God's work? I hope the kid that leads the people to God knows where his house is, because I still don't know where it is. Maybe today was just a big dream. We went back to their home and ate fish from a stick. Firefox told great stories of Grand Canyon. It sounds like a great place for a peace away from the world and not just a hole in the ground. The women were being fussy over me and braided my hair and showed me how to make beaded jewelry. They gave me a genuine Indian dress because my clothes were wet. Everyone was so nice. At sunset, we left in the helicopter and flew back to the lookout studio. I saw a wild herd of beautiful wild horses running with the wind in their hair. Buffalo was piled together eating grass. There were several bighorn sheep standing on a mountain. It was so breathtaking, I cried with joy. When we got back at the lookout studio, my clothes and hair were dry as I sat at the top of the canyon in a new light and talked about God with some old people. A man with a 10-gallon hat talked with Firefox and Turtle to offer jobs for their families for life. He even offered a grant for some project to help grow their food in an indoor farm system and on their land to help in times of drought. They could run one of the hotels and some of the tours of the South Rim. Turtle came over to me and said, "Thank you for helping bring God back into my life. I have missed him. Starting tomorrow, I have a lot of work to do on the farm, and all is because of this beautiful land." He stood there and smiled. His eyes were beaming with love and happiness. Turtle laughed at me as I told him that I bet I knew what kind of animals would be on his farm. I beat my family back by an hour. They were so tired. They picked me up and we stayed at the lodge nearby for the night. No one asked me about my dress or my hair. Mom and Dad were just complaining about the heat and their sore butts while carrying my sister that was asleep on my mom's shoulder. I was invisible to them. I went to bed as it began to rain. I dreamed the Indians would be fine and live a happy, simple life, picking their most delicious corn from their stalk. The next morning, as we left the lodge, a deer came up to me before I got into my car. My mom took a picture of the deer and told me that the deer must be domesticated. I looked confused, and my dad came over to me and he whispered in my ear, "You know, people at the lodge must feed it and keep it for a pet. That's domesticated." Oh. We all got into the car and headed for Carlsbad Caverns. I want you to know we walked through the big cave just to get to the bottom of the cave to have a hot dog. There was a nice lady giving a big group tour through the cave. There were a lot of bats that made Cameo scream. I wanted to catch one and see how it felt, but they were too quick. I told Cameo not to worry because they're all domesticated bats. People feed them. My mom shook her head as my dad laughed. The lady giving the tour showed our group the bottomless pit. Of course, it was another hole in the ground. The lady took an apple, threw it down the hole, and told us to listen. No one could hear anything. She says that's right, it's a bottomless pit. I got the lady's attention and told her that China must get a lot of your apples. I saw this on a cartoon on TV. So this hole probably goes all the way to China. Someone dug it. I can see it now. People are in China sitting on the ground next to a big hole, and all of a sudden, an apple pops out of the ground in one of their baskets once every 30 minutes. Everyone around me just laughed, but they knew I was right because they looked down the hole just one more time. Later, we headed to Las Vegas and saw a big man wearing a cowboy hat and the lights on the side of a building. My mom said that we were just passing through because we're too young to go anywhere in this town. My dad pulled over for something to eat. While we were eating, my dad left us. He wanted to go somewhere really quick, and kids were not allowed. When my dad came back, he had a smile on his face and gobbled down a burger, and then took us all to a souvenir shop. Of course, my mom bought a state thimble, a state spoon, and a state glass. She does this every state we go through. My sister got a pet rock, but I didn't want anything because I still have a coloring book I got from the North Pole. I wonder how old you need to be to live in Las Vegas. Is it terrible that no kids live in Las Vegas? Did they have to move if they had kids? What a crazy place this is! On the way out of Las Vegas, we pulled over to get some gas in the car. While my dad was paying for the gas, I saw something that I have never seen. I yelled out to my dad, Hey dad, look, it's a black man." My dad quickly ran to the car and told me to hush, that I cannot say things aloud like that. I looked at my mom, but she and my sister ducked down into the car. I told my dad with excitement that he must drink a lot of chocolate milk, like that brown cow you told me about. I yelled at the black man, "How much chocolate milk do you drink?" The old man did not answer. He just looked at me and waved. He had a big old smile on his face, too. My dad drove off so fast that I could not get his name. I was really sad. My dad yelled, "Shasta Dorcas, you can't say stupid stuff or ask stupid questions to people like that, especially a black person. You have now embarrassed everyone in the car." "But Dad, I've never seen one before. The man on TV says we have to love everybody, get their name and pray for them and their families." I didn't even get his name. I yelled out the window, but with little success, so I lifted my hands like the man on TV and prayed aloud. "God, if you're listening, I am praying for the nice old black man that drinks a lot of chocolate milk, he would have a great day today and for every day. But I don't even know his name. Amen. My mom pointed her finger at me and said, Shasta, that is not how you pray. Well, how do you pray? She didn't answer. And she didn't even want to talk about it and change the subject about other places on the map. I heard her whisper to my dad that I need to stop watching TV and that I'm embarrassing her with random prayers. My dad pulled over to an auto store to get a new gas cap. He left his gas cap at the gas station in Las Vegas. How sad, because I think that nice old man had a message to tell me. On vacation, we also went to Colorado and drove up a tall mountain. Round and round, we go higher and higher. Asked my dad, are we driving to heaven or pretty close to it? Dad smiled and said, not today, Shasta. Then why are we driving through clouds? It's fog, Shasta. My mom yelled for me to calm down. I looked out the window. We kept going round and round the mountain and higher and higher. I could see the whole world in between the clouds. It's fog, Shasta. I was shaking, holding myself with my eyes shut. Don't fall off. Don't fall off. Please don't fall off. My sister pushed me and told me to shut up because cars don't fall off mountains. Drivers do. When one car comes from one way, another car comes from another way, and then they crash into each other and fall off the mountain. I was behind my dad in the back seat and whispered in his ear, don't crash into any cars, trucks, or the motorcycle driving towards you. My mom told me to lie down in the back until we go to the top of the mountain. I did, and quickly covered my head with a blanket. I said aloud, so God could hear, if there is a God or Jesus, I need you now. I am not ready to go to heaven today. Please, God, please forgive them for laughing at my prayer. Please don't kill them because I'm still in the car. Amen. When the car stopped, everyone flew out of our gold hatchback car. Get out, everyone. We're now at the North Pole. I looked around and said, I thought we were going to Colorado. My dad pointed at the sign that said the North Pole. Look around, Shasta. There is Santa's house and his reindeer. I got to feed Dasher a handful of food. Did you know that Santa does not always wear his red suit? Yep, it is true. I saw him with my own eyes. He was wearing a white t-shirt with red shorts. He does look funny. I guess because it's not the same. But I wear different clothes every day, so I guess he does too. Later, everyone lined up to get their picture taken with Santa in his red suit, in his house, in his big, beautiful chair. I gave him a Christmas list of 2 dolls that I would like to have. I hope he remembers my list because earlier I saw Santa run into the door and hurt his head while my sister and I were petting the deer. I figured since he lived there that he should remember that there is a big, fat, red front door. I even yelled out, hey Santa, Santa, you have to open the door before you walk through it. Is your head okay? Do you have a boo-boo? Are you bleeding? Do you need more glitter magic dust from your elves? I can get one. Santa frowned at me while he was holding his head. Bet him checked off his good list for sure. I just wanted to make sure he was okay. Anyway, that's okay. Grammy knows what I want for Christmas. At that moment, a boy with blonde hair, about my age, with a white shirt and blue pants came over and held my chin up and stared at me and said, I am here to tell you that God hears you when you prayed in your car. And Shasta Dorcas, you have been chosen by God. Smile your smile, and you will be fine. Then the boy put a pink carnation in my hair, gave me a hug, and ran off. I wonder who that boy was, and how he knew my name. He looks familiar. How did he know that I was praying in my car? Maybe he was in the car behind us, maybe he works for Santa. I wasn't sure. I went to play in the park area with the elves and Cameo and some other kids. I looked for the boy with the white shirt, but he was nowhere to be found. I hope he didn't fall off the mountain. I'm only 6 years old, so I wouldn't be able to save him if I did. On the way back down the mountain, I got into the back and lied down, covered up with a blanket, and held on to my pink carnations, and went to sleep. So, we left the North Pole, went through Colorado, and went to Utah. We went there because my dad said while we were eating in the cafe in Las Vegas, he won $3,000 in a slot machine. He was so happy to get most of his money back that he'd spent on the trip already that he extended our trip to see Salt Lake City, Utah. I thought it would be a city in the middle of a salt lake. I was wrong. I saw a sign on the road that said Home of the Mormons. I at first wondered where the house was, but my dad pointed it out as we went through the city. I told my mom that the Mormons have a big house. As we passed by it in our car, Dad said that is not their house. It is their church. It sure is a big church. We didn't even stop by to see it. We just drove on by. My mom said it must have cost a lot of hard-working people's money to build that church. Well, when I grow up, I want to go to church. If hard-working people built the church with their money, then there is a good reason to find out what is in the church. We went to the Salt Lake and waited in a long line for the riverboat. We all found seats on the riverboat, and the captain introduced himself. He asked if there were any questions and said, Oh, I raised my hand so high. I do. I have a question on why you call this a riverboat if we're on a lake. It should be called Salt Lake Boat or Lake Boat, right? The captain laughed. I made him laugh. And he asked how old I was. My mom blurted out that she was sorry. I'm only 6 years old, and Shasta asked a lot of silly questions. The captain said that it was all right, and said since I have the prettiest mouth that I could drive the boat. Wow, I even got to wear his hat. I don't believe that he ever answered my question, though. He began telling people on the boat that Salt Lake, Utah was founded in 1847 by the Mormons. I told the captain I saw their church on the way here. He talked about other things, but told me to focus so we would not crash into other boats. It was fun, and after the boat ride, Cammy and I got to swim in the salt water. It was like Bolivar Beach to me, without the waves and the seagulls, but you could definitely smell the fresh salt air. Later that night in Utah, I saw the most mesmerizing thing. We went to go see a real Indian tribe dance. They wore real feathers, war paint, and everything. These Indians were dancing with hula hoops. I have never seen anything like it. They all have long, beautiful, long black hair, even the men. It was as if TV came to life. I was at peace watching them dance around the bonfire. Their drums were enchanting. I heard nothing but them and ignored everything around me. I think I was in a trance. I think they were dancing for rain. I was on the front row with some other kids, and an Indian picked me up and said, "You child, with the great smile, you are a chosen one." I got to stand with the Indians as they danced with me and around me. I somehow knew how to dance with them as the kids were clapping to the drum beat. I wanted to see them again and again, but it began to rain, so we had to leave. That is a memory that I will always keep in my heart. A few days later, we were in South Dakota and went to the Badlands and the Black Hills to see Mount Rushmore. My dad said it is heads of the dead presidents carved into mountains. I only recognized George Washington and Abraham Lincoln from school. Oh, and PBS TV. My favorite statue was Crazy Horse, but it wasn't finished yet. Did you know that Pinky was a Cherokee Indian? I think of her when I see the American Indians. I think they are neat and have a simple way of life. Well, we were at Mount Rushmore. I got to see some pretty lands with those machines. You know, the ones you put money in, and then you can look through it and see a long distance away from the gift shop. My dad told me to look at the mountain of men. I couldn't help myself. I looked at the land. I saw some Indians riding horses down there. I could have swore they were waving at me. But how could they? I'm one of many looking out upon the land. There are 4 tour buses, plus many other families here today. Why is the land called the Badlands? The land is graceful and fascinating. All I could think about was someone had to have many seeds to plant all those trees, flowers, and bushes in the Badlands. I think that one seed that fits in the palm of your hand is a miracle in itself. Think about it. If one seed could grow into one big tree that could shade you in a few years, then that same tree will create more seeds that can make an entire forest that can make food and shelter for many creatures, including humans. Remember, the ants help plant the seeds. They eat what they want of the seed and then get rid of the other part of the seed, and it grows into a flower or tree. That is not magic. That is God and His miracle. I think all the mountains are beautiful with their pretty colors. I opened my arms, breathed in the fresh air, and yelled out, "The land is so angelic! I hope no one destroys it." God painted the land with His light for all to see how mighty He is. My sister and Mom ran into the gift shop, and my dad gave me $1 to go save the land, and told me to be careful what I yell out because people might think something is wrong with me. I looked around and many people were looking at me, so I asked the people if they would join me in saving the land and the Indian reservation that lives in the valley. My dad grabbed my hand and told me to put my $1 in the red box. I did, and everyone else did too. They must have agreed with me about the land. My dad took me to the gift shop and bought me an Indian doll. My mom bought a plate, a spoon, and Cameo got a fox. We sat down and listened to a man talking about the monuments. He thought they were amazing. He asked me if I liked them. I said, no, to be honest, because I don't understand something. If the Indians live on the land, then why are there dead presidents on their land carved into their mountain? He said that the Sioux Indian do live on the land with a treaty of 1868. But our government took back the land when they found out that there was gold in the Black Hills. I told him that that was not very nice. I wouldn't want people to take my land because they found something that they wanted. Would you? Then everyone got up and left. As I was leaving with my dad, an old man came up to me. He had regular clothes on, but he was an Indian. He said that I was very smart for a little girl, and that the Black Hills are a sacred land, and gave me an arrowhead necklace that he had made. I thanked him for the silver necklace. He said it was made from the Black Hills gold. He was so nice. My dad told him he was very kind and that he did not have to give me his necklace, and that he was very kind and appreciated everything. I hope the Indians get their land back soon. We went to a wax museum of people. It was very boring. My mom and dad were enjoying every moment, taking pictures with Cameo standing next to some of them. Cameo and I wanted to leave. Can you believe people pay money to look at wax people? You can't even talk to them. I asked my mom, since they were made of wax, then are they candles? She yelled at me and said, Shasta, you ask the stupidest questions. A boy popped out behind the wax president and ran by my mom and said, there are no stupid questions. How do you learn if you don't ask questions? She looked around to see who said that. He looked familiar. Maybe the same boy I saw at the North Pole. I'm not sure though. My dad said the tour is over anyway, and grabbed my hand and whispered to me, whoever said that is right. My dad walked out with me and told the owners that they can make a lot of money if the wax people were candles. I smiled at my dad. He was taking my side. He understood. My mom ran out with Cameo as if they didn't know us or something. The good thing is that we got to leave that boring place. But before we left, the owner said there was a little boy here, and he said to give you this pink carnation to cheer you up. He was right. I love pink carnations. My dad said I was lucky because now I have 2 of them to make me smile. We also went to go see the Flintstones in Bedrock, but they were not real and not a cartoon. Everything was plastic or made of rock. Even the dinosaur was plastic. The only thing I liked there was the house and the car. They were made of rocks and looked kind of real. But I know we went there because my mom and dad wanted to make me and Cameo happy. They know we watched the cartoon on TV. Even though it's not the same, we were still happy to be there and happy to be there as a family and take lots of pictures. My mom was laughing and having a great time. What could be more special than that? The day after we went to see the Flintstones, we went somewhere that had a few buffalo, but a lot of prairie dogs. We bought some peanuts to go out and feed them, but there were no dogs, just rodents. My mom said, just throw the peanuts. Cameo said for me to look at the sign that showed what a picture of a prairie dog looked like. And they did not look like dogs, but we fed them anyway. But not too close, or they could bite you. My dad explained that prairie dogs live in the dirt. I thought the prairie dogs were cute, but the buffalo were amazing. Until I stepped into a buffalo patty that covered my entire shoe. I think the family of prairie dogs were laughing at me. My dad laughed, and my mom and Cameo laughed too. My dad yelled for me to take off my shoe and hop back to the car. I know my face was red, and it was not from the sun. I threw my shoes off and left them there. They had holes in the soles anyway. I got in the car, and then a boy came to the car window and gave me a pink carnation and walked away before my family could see him. My family didn't see anyone, even though I think it was the same boy from the North Pole and the museum. Maybe the sun is getting to me, but maybe not, because now I have 3 pink carnations. I just needed to keep my paper towel around them to keep them wet, so they can stay alive. We stopped off at a local store, and my dad bought me 2 pairs of brand new shoes. And this was not a yard sale. He bought me a pair of tennis shoes and some brown sandals. My mom was mad because he spent too much money on my shoes when I would grow out of them within a year. My dad told Mom that it was his money and that he could spend it any way he wanted to. And besides, if I grow out of them, my mom can sell them at a yard sale and get some money back. I believe my mom just likes keeping the money for herself. We came back home from our long vacation. I found Bubba in the kitchen making tamales with Pinky. I gave Pinky a big old hug, and I gave her my 3 pink carnations, and she put them in water for me. I told Bubba that he didn't miss anything, just some buffalo poop. Some beautiful holes in the ground. I didn't want Bubba to be sad for missing a great vacation. That vacation is something that I will always treasure. Not completely understand. Please continue watching all the chapters to find out what happens to Shasta. Thank you for joining me in the Lost Diary of Shasta Dorcas. I hope you're enjoying it. Please join me for next time. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you soon.